So as the shapes, or the top of the cylindrical shapes, get closer to the eye level, the ellipse, this ellipse here, would automatically, you would draw it so it's much slimmer. So the height of it is very narrow. As it gets further below your eye level, as this one is, it gets fatter and fatter until we get to the bottom here, where it is considerably open. And you wouldn't see the back of these pots, but it does affect the curve that you draw down here. It means that this is the most acute curve, okay? This is a shallower curve, and this is a shallower curve at the top of the pot. Now, this is all to do with the beginnings of me teaching you perspective. And perspective is something that often thwarts people, but is actually relatively simple. It's not complicated, but if you have to keep your body still. If your body moves when you're looking at a group of objects, you will see something different every single time. So your head and your body, in relationship to what you're looking at, must remain constant. If you move your chair slightly to the right or to the left, you'll see something different, okay? So we're going to now start to make a drawing, and I will show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the shape that is nearest to me, which is a shallow, as you could see in that picture of my objects. It's a little dish with a mortar and pestle. It's a mortar and pestle. And it's quite a small little dish, and I'm just going to start by lining it in. Now, I said you don't do outlines, but you've got to use a line initially to describe the composition. So I'm just drawing that one first because it's closest to me, and I can see that it's the one that's the lowest in terms of my eye level. So it's going to be the one that's going to have the most open ellipse here.
And you're looking at it from a different perspective to us, I'm guessing.
Sorry?
You're looking at it from a different perspective to us, I'm guessing.
Yes, I think you're looking down at it even more. I'm looking at it more from the side, so you'll have to forgive me. I mean, this looks like I'm up close to it, doesn't it? And I'm looking down into the bowl. In fact, I can't see it quite as open as that. So I'm drawing it as I've done here. I think that's open enough. So I would then proceed to do the other shapes in the composition. So I've got the little teapot shape here. And this is the one that I said has a very acute bottom. And I'm just going to literally sketch all those shapes in. I'm happy with the placement of the shapes on the actual tabletop. But I've now got to start to create my image on my paper. So I'm going to very quickly sketch all that in. And
No, you can't go in there. No.
Okay, let's stop there for a minute, please. Now I've got 5 shapes. I don't know how many shapes you've got, but there's quite a lot to draw. And I've, only lightly sketched things in. I haven't actually begun any tone or consideration of how I'm going to make these look like really round, solid objects. But I've had to adjust and play around with proportion already, because I realise when I first look at things, I don't necessarily see them absolutely accurately. And so it's important to get the whole thing mapped out initially, if it's more than 2 objects, and really check that the spaces between things are accurate, and that you've actually indicated a ground line. Now, I've put a ground line in here, and I can see that if I carry this through, it really should be there and come out sort of here. So I'm already going to have to make an adjustment in that by taking that line out. So it's a number of things. If there's a vertical anywhere in the background that you can actually introduce or have in the drawing, i.e. the edge of a wall or the edge of a shelf or a cupboard or something, it's useful to put it in, because you can again check the space between that fixed line and your objects, and that you always keep it, consistent. You don't start changing it. The other thing to bear in mind is the positioning of things, that this teapot here is further back than the little mortar and pestle in the front. So therefore the bottom of the shape, this being closest to me, but the bottom of the shape is nearer to the bottom of my paper. And that's another way of pushing things further back in space, just literally making sure that the bottom of your object, how it relates to the next shape. Is it on a line with the next shape, or is it further back? This pot was definitely further back in my arrangement. So I've actually, checked and related it to the shape that it's sitting next to see whether I've actually drawn that in correctly.